now. All right, so the rest of this session will be recorded. Okay, so do we? I say we start. Just maybe I'm not going to mute anybody unless it becomes a problem. I haven't really had a session with this many students in it yet, so no, the things aren't the things you can do, like raise your hand and just like answer yes, no, visually, stuff like that. Maybe. Okay, so does somebody want to give like maybe a practice problem that we can start with?
6 and 8.
6 and 8 on the practice section. Okay, I'm going to.
And 1.
And what?
And 1.
Okay. So now you should use my iPad. Okay. We will do. Hey, we got an hour, so we'll do as much done as we can. All right. I have my note brought up here on the iPad. Hopefully everybody can see this and look at it. You might want to come up with some way, some two-screen system where you can work on your own stuff and watch my screen at the same time. Students in the last session said they could split screen on their iPad and kind of watch Zoom on one side and work on the other side. So that might be something you want to get going. Okay. So in the practice problem, the first 4 were the easy kind. Can anybody tell me why?
Because were already canceled out.
We already have opposite coefficients. Now when I share my screen like this, I get this cool laser pointer feature. So so you can see in number 1, we have opposite coefficients, the x. And remember, the y coefficients are not opposites, but you don't need them both to be. We just need one pair of like terms to have opposite coefficients. So in number 2, the y's are opposites, -1 and +1. In number 3, the x's are opposites, -5 and +5. And then in number 4, the y's are opposites, -5 and +5. So let's just go ahead and we'll do number 1. If you already have it done, you think you got it right, no big deal. You can double check. But these, when you already have opposite coefficients, the algebra is very, very simple. All right, so all we're going to do is add the equations together. Now, I do want one thing I want to point out in the notes. All right, and yeah, it might be a good idea to mute your screen if you don't have anything to say, just in case something, there's noise in the background or something like that. But one thing, before we talk about this, the one thing I want to point out in the notes is what I crossed out. The book wants you to always, so one pair of like terms has the same or opposite coefficients. That's what I crossed out here. We just want to focus on opposite coefficients because we're always going to add the equations together. The book thinks it's a good idea to tell you that you can either add the equations together or subtract the equations. But subtracting the equations is a lot more complicated because you have to make sure you distribute a negative throughout the whole problem to all 3 terms. And a lot of students make mistakes on that. As I've been saying all year, the more negative signs are involved, the more mistakes we make. So that's why I just want you to always get opposite coefficients and then add the equations together. Adding is much easier than subtracting. So that's what we're always going to do in this class. Okay, so when we add them together, we get 0x here, so that the x's just drop out. 3y plus 2y is 5y, and 17 plus 8 is 25. Is back. Okay. So I guess I gotta keep an eye on that. Okay. So hopefully everybody can hear me. Okay. So remember, because it's a 0x. 0 times anything is 0, and that term, there's no x in the equation anymore. The only reason that this method works is that when we add the equations together, we have to eliminate one of the variables. I'll show you in like number 6, we'll do number 6 together, and I'll show you like why if you just add the equation together, it's not going to work. Okay, but so we need to eliminate one of the variables. So since we did that, we get this very, very simple equation: 5y equals 25. All right, so we divide both sides by 5, We solve for y, and we find that y equals 5. Okay, so now what do we do? Anybody? Nobody?
Hold on, wait.
Once we have one of
Now you have to solve for x.
right, now we got to find x. So now that we know one of the variables, we can plug in a 5 for y into either equation, and we can figure out what x is. So let me just take that over here. So I'm going to rewrite the top equation, and instead of putting y, I'm going to put a 5. We know that y is equal to 5. So we're going to substitute in for the last step always here. Oh no, 10%. Sorry to leave you in suspense there. Hopefully, okay, so what should the answer be here? Anybody figure it out?
15x 2.
What?
2.
2. Yeah, x is 2. So we get x plus 15 equals 17. We subtract 15 from both sides, and we get x equals 2. Okay. So, whoops. So to write our answer in ordered pair form, it would be 2, 5. The point 2, 5. That just means, remember, the solution to a system means we put a 2 in for x and a 5 in for y in both equations. It's the only combination of numbers for x and y that'll do that. Okay, so when you already have opposite coefficients, it's pretty easy. The math is pretty easy. You just have to understand what to do and why you're doing it. All right. So, and I don't want to do every single problem together. I mean, we certainly can if we have time, but I want you to try a couple on your own after, you see me, how I'm working on these, and then maybe, you still have all day tomorrow to ask me questions. Tomorrow from 10 to 3, I'm going to be at my computer ready to help you out. So don't think like this is your last chance to get help before you have to turn it in. Okay. So with number 6, so like I said before, 1, 2, 3, and 4, it should be pretty straightforward because you already have opposite coefficients. The real trouble comes in when you have to create opposite coefficients. Because number 6, one that somebody said they wanted to see. So if we go ahead and add these together now, and don't do this on your paper because this is the wrong way to do it. I'm just kind of showing you why it's the wrong way. So if we add 3x and 4x, we get 7x. If we add negative 2y and negative 3y, we get negative 5y. And then if we add negative 2 and negative 4, we get negative 6. Well, it's totally okay to do that, but does this get us any closer to solving for a variable?
No.
No. Why not?
No.
Because it takes longer.
Well, we still have an x and a y in an equation. When we have two variables, we can't solve that equation. That's why one of them has to drop out for this to work. So so that's the reason we can't just always add the equations together first. There's nothing we can do from here. So we have to manipulate the equations to make them do what we want, so to speak. All right. So, and there are literally millions of ways you can do this correctly, but there's always one that's, the best way to do it, the easiest way to do it. Okay. So in this case, now remember, the only thing we can do to change these equations is we can multiply everything in the equation by the same number. Okay. That's how we're going to do it. We have to get opposite coefficients. So, and we really don't want to use fractions or decimals. All right. So, so I'm looking at these. Let me get my laser pointer out. I have a 3x and a 4x. So one easy way to get opposite coefficients is to multiply the 3 by this number and the 4 by this number. And that way, if we multiply them by the same, if we're using the same two factors, we'll get the same result. So we could turn this into a 12 by multiplying this top equation by 4. We could turn the bottom into 12 by multiplying this by 3. However, we don't want 12x and 12x. We want them to be opposites. So we have to multiply one of them by a negative and one of them by a positive to make that happen. All right. So now another way we could do it is if we look at the y's, we have a negative 2 and a negative 3. So if I multiply this equation by 3 and I multiply this equation by negative 2, that would give me a negative 6 and a positive 6. So those would be opposite. So you can see there's lots of different ways we can do this. Let's go with the first way I was talking about. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply this top equation by -4, and we're going to multiply the bottom equation by +3. That's going to give me a -12x here and a +12x here, and then when we add the equations together, the x's the x's will cancel.
How do you know what to divide? Like, how do you know what to times it by? Like,
And
how'd you get the -4 and the 3?
because you want to turn them into the same, you want to turn the coefficients into the same number, but you want them to have different signs, right? So
Do it matter which
really,
one?
the mathematical vocabulary at play here is least common multiple. You want to look for the least common multiple of the two numbers for your variable term. Remember, it doesn't always have to be the x. It can be the y sometimes too. So the least common multiple of 3 and 4 is 12. So if we turn these both into 12s, and when I do it, you'll see what happens. 4 times -4 times 3, -4 times -2, -4 times 2. So we're going to get, I'm going to rewrite. It's always a great idea to rewrite the equations in their entirety. A lot of students they'll write the answer up above and then they'll write the answer down below, and then they'll get confused on which equation they're using. So always rewrite the equations off to the side. We get a +8y here, because remember, I'm taking -4 times -2. So watch your signs really carefully. And then -4 times -2 over here is also +8. And then on the bottom, 3 times 4x, 3 times -3y, and 3 times -4. So this gives me a 12x. And you can see right now here we have opposite coefficients, and that's exactly what we want. 3 times -3 is -9y, and 3 times -4 is -12. So just don't forget to multiply everything in the equation by that constant. That's the only way we keep our equations balanced, just doing it that way. Okay?
Do you always add the equations no matter what?
Yes, I think it's a good idea. Like I said, I crossed some things out in the directions on the notes on the previous page, because it's a lot harder when you try and subtract the equations from each other, because you have to remember, because it would be like taking -12 minus 12, and then 8 minus -9, which is actually 8 plus 9. And yeah, it's the signs a lot more complicated. We're going to make a lot more mistakes. So always get opposite coefficients, and always add the equations together. Okay, so we get a 0 here. +8 and plus -9 is -1y, and then 8 minus 12 is -4. So we only have to do one thing to solve this equation for y. We divide both sides by -1, and we get y equals +4. And you can see a lot of students like elimination, because once they get the equations in the form they need with opposite coefficients, the math is really, really easy compared to substitution. Substitution has a lot more complicated equations to solve. This is just a one-step equation, and we're done. So that's why a lot of students like elimination. Okay, but we're not done yet. We have to sub this back into either equation. So this time I'm going to use the bottom equation just to show you it really doesn't matter. So we're going to do 4x minus 3y, and instead of y, we're going to put a 4 in there, equals -4. Okay, so we get 4x minus 12 equals -4. Add 12 to both sides. Do a little dance. Do a little math. Okay,
That
so
beatboxing was so good.
did you like it?
It was actually good.
Did you know what song it was from?
I have no idea.
I gave it to you.
I thought I heard
What song was it?
Sunflower by Post Malone.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, I forgot all this is being recorded. Yeah, okay. That's pretty fun. All right, so anyway, hey, I don't mind making a fool of myself. I say, does somebody have I'm doing a, well, I guess I shouldn't talk about it, but I'm helping out Mr. Burt now with something for his class too. It's gonna be a lot.
What?
All right.
I just laughed at Haley's laugh.
Okay, I'll mute myself. Bye.
Just don't forget to write your answer as an ordered pair and always put the X first and always put the Y second. Even though we got our answer for X second in the problem, it still has to go first in the ordered pair. Okay, we always got to put the ordered pairs in the right order. That's why they're called that. Okay, so questions about that? Speak now or don't speak.
Are we doing number 8?
Sure, let's go ahead and do number 8. Okay. So, okay, but you all are going to help me out with this. So unmute if you want to answer some questions here. Let's take a look at this and somebody tell me what I could do to get opposite coefficients. What do you think the easiest method would be?
What'd you say?
You have to.
What could we do? What could we do to
I'm
these
trying to
equations?
solve it.
You have to multiply, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have to, right?
Yeah.
Because we have negative 3x and positive 2x, those are not opposites. And then we have negative 2y and positive 5y, those are not opposites. So we're actually gonna have to multiply both equations by a number to get opposite coefficients. So what's one easy way we could do that?
Multiply the first one by 2 and the second one by positive 3.
Very good. Multiply the top one by 2, which would give us, right here, that would give us a negative 6x. And then if we multiply the bottom one by 3, that would give us a positive 6x. So, okay, I like it. Let's do that. What else could we have done that would also have worked? What if we wanted to get the y's to be opposites? The y terms.
Multiply it by 2 and 5.
Right, we multiply the top one by 2 and the bottom one by 5, and that would give us 10y on top and negative 10y on bottom, and then the y's would cancel out. That would also be okay. I just want you to know that there's not, even though like if I give you an answer key and I show you how I did it, there's many other correct ways to do it, and you would get the same. All right, so let's use Emma's method. We're going to multiply this one by 2 and this one by 3. So do not forget to distribute to all, not just one side, but all terms in the equation. All right, and then let's rewrite them over here. So we get negative 6x plus 10y equals negative 4. And then we get 6x minus 6y equals 3. Okay, everybody good so far? Make sure you raise your
Yes.
hand.
Yeah.
Raise your
Hi,
hand.
Mila.
Hey.
Hi, Mara. Just making sure all right, so let's go ahead and do our math now. We're going to add them together. X's are going to cancel out. We get 4y when we add 10 and negative 6. And we get negative 1 when we add negative.
See, it's not going to work.
Yeah, it is going to work. You just have to
Maybe
deal with
that's not-
fractions.
Oh,
And that's okay.
I thought I was doing it wrong because there was a
Yeah,
fraction.
well, that's something that you're, as you get deeper into mathematics, you're just going to have to know that sometimes the answer is going to be fractions, and you can still check your answer to make sure it works out. So let's see what we'll do here. Negative 1/4. Okay, you can use because it's not a repeating decimal, you can use negative 0.25. You can use the decimal form if you want. That might make it a little bit easier for you. But I mean, we have calculators. We know how to use them. So let's just go ahead and use them. I'm going to plug that answer. Whoops. I'm going to plug that answer back into this equation for y. I think the bottom one looks a little bit simpler. So 2x minus 2 times negative 1/4 equals 1. Okay, so we do that math. We got a negative times a negative, so I know the answer is going to be positive. And if I get out my trusty calculator here, we're going to do negative 2 times parentheses negative 1 divided by 4, and that gives me 0.5 or 1/2. So we'll just call it 1/2, and then we'll write the rest of our equation down. Okay, so we got to subtract 1/2 from both sides. Bring down the 2x. 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. And then we divide both sides by 2. So be very careful on the calculator. You do need to put 1/2 in parentheses, just like always. 1/2 divided by 2 gives me 0.25. Math, enter, enter, gives me 1/4. So x equals positive 1/4. Okay, so that means our answer is 1/4, comma, negative 1/4. All right, and we can check and make sure that answer is right. So what I'm going to do is plug it into the top equation in my calculator, and then I'll show you my calculator in just a second. But it's going to be negative 3 times x is 1/4 plus 5 parentheses negative 1/4 and we get negative 2. So go back to Zoom and that broadcast. Okay, so now you can see my screen again. All right, so I just wanted to show you. I put in those numbers in the top equation, and I got an answer for negative 3. So let's go back. So in other words, I used the top equation to check my answer, and I got negative 2 on the calculator. So all it's saying is this expression, if you put in a positive 1/4 for x and a negative 1/4 for y, this expression is going to be negative 2, which is equal to negative 2. So it does work. Okay. And so yeah, sometimes you'll get answers that are fractions, and that's a possibility. You have to look out for it. And if you're doing the math right, then try not to doubt yourself too much. Okay, ready to talk about 11?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to switch files here. Wait, where is it? Because I need some room to work here, but I don't want to delete what I had here. All right, I guess I'll have to import something. All right. Okay. So, okay, let's see what we learned about number 11. All right. Too bad Morgan's not here. Doing a problem about her. Okay. Medium Mo is so bored during her spring break staycation that she watches a bunch of YouTube videos on knitting. She decides to knit matching socks and hats for all of her family members, including herself, and for all of her dogs too. When she finishes, she has 12 hats and 34 socks in total. How many dogs does Medium Mo have? Okay. Now it's a fun problem because you have to know a little bit about people and dogs in order to figure out how to write these equations. Okay, but first of all, what do we always start with? Anybody? Feel free to chime in. In my notes on the first two, what did I do first?
Find your variable.
Define your variables. Thank you very much. Yeah. You want to write down what your variables represent. And we always look at the question it's asking us. Okay. How many dogs does medium Mo have? So this will help us a little bit, but it only asks us for one variable. What do you think the other variable would be? So let's write this down first. X equals number of dogs. So what do you think our other variable y is going to represent in this problem? What else don't we know about medium Mo and her living
Socks and
situation?
hats.
Number of cats?
Socks and hats.
Socks and hats. Okay. Now we do know the number of socks and hats that she made, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what don't we know? She's making them for her family members and her dogs.
How many YouTube videos she watched?
No. I mean, we don't know that, but we don't need to know that information.
How many families she got?
Yes, very good, Mila. How many family members? Number of family members. And remember, this includes herself. Because if she's making hats and socks for all of her family members and her dogs, we need to know, we need to have an expression for both of those things. Okay, so the two equations we're gonna write, I'm gonna color code them just like I did before, would be for the number of hats she's making, and the other one we'll do in blue is gonna be for the number of socks she's making. Okay. So let's go back and find some information for the red. So she made 12 hats, and then she made 34 socks. And that's going to be information. That's what we need to help us write these equations. Okay. So so with the number of hats, you got to ask yourself, how many hats does a dog need?
One.
One. Okay, so to find the number of hats, we're just going to take the number of dogs and we're going to multiply that by 1. Okay, and we really don't. Oh, here comes Kate. Okay, so 1x, and then what about family members? Y equals the number of family members she has. So how many hats does each family member need? How many heads do they have?
One.
1. So it's going to be 1x plus 1y, and then that total should equal what?
One.
No. This is like for the total number of hats she's making.
12.
12, right? So 1x plus 1y equals 12, because every dog just needs 1 hat because they only have 1 head, and every person only needs 1 hat because they only have 1 head. So if she made 12 in total, then the number of dogs plus the number of family members she has should be 12. Okay, socks is a little bit different. For dogs, let's get the blue out here. For dogs, how many socks does each dog need?
4.
4, because they have 4 legs. And how many socks does each human need?
2.
2. So it should be 4x plus 2y, and that's going to be equal to the total number of socks she made.
34.
34.
4. Very good. All right. So that's the tough part. Now we have our system of equations, right? Okay. So now all we have to do is solve it. Okay, so there's 2 easy ways that you can solve this, and there's a ton of more difficult ways that you can solve it. Somebody tell me one easy way that we can get opposite coefficients here, so that we can
Multiply.
multiply.
Divide.
No, we
One
don't.
to four.
We don't ever want to divide, because dividing might give us fractions, and we don't want to work with fractions.
Multiply 1 and 4.
Okay, well, let me.
Subtract. No, add.
Well, can we add them together now? Will we eliminate one variable?
No.
No, here we'll get 5x and here we'll get 3y, and then we won't be able to solve that resulting equation. So we need to change this top equation to get opposite coefficients on either x or y. And like I said, it really does not matter which variable you want to eliminate. You just have to eliminate one of them. Okay, so if I wanted to eliminate the x's, what could I multiply this top equation by to get opposite coefficients?
-4.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Mila's on it. So let's do that. And just for good measure, somebody other than Mila, what could I multiply the top equation by to get opposite coefficients for the y variable?
4.
No.
-1.
We want to turn this into a -2, right?
Oh, y. -1.
No, not -1.
1.
What can I multiply this by to make it a -2?
Oh, -2.
-2, right? So we could multiply the top equation by -2, and then we could eliminate the y's, or we could multiply the top equation by -4 and eliminate the x's. Either one is totally, it's a great way to go, okay? We're gonna do the first one, we're gonna do the one that Mila said first. All right, so I'm gonna take this equation, multiply it by -4, all right? So make sure you multiply everything, and then we're gonna rewrite both equations. So we would get -4x minus 4y equals -48. Okay, so everything gets multiplied by -4. And then the bottom equation stays exactly the same. 4x plus 2y equals 34. All right, now we're ready to add. So okay, so our x's cancel out, our y's, we get -2y, and what's -48 plus 34 is -14. Okay, so real easy one-step equation here to solve. We're going to divide both sides by -2, and I get y equals 7. Okay, now somebody tell me what that means in the context of the problem.
7 family members.
Yeah, y is the number of family members, and that is the precise reason that we always define a variable. That way, when we get y equals 7, we can look right back here and say, oh, well, y was the number of family members Mo has, so she must have 7 family members. Okay. Now we still have to do the last step to solve for x, because that's what the question's asking us. It doesn't want to know how many family members she has; it wants to know how many dogs she has. But the rest of this is pretty easy. Does anybody know the answer? How many dogs does she have?
5.
Right, because if she made 12 hats, so that means if 7 of them are going to family members, then the other 5 have to be going to dogs. How would we do that? Normally, like algebraically, we would take the top equation, x plus y, and we put a 7 in for y equals 6. And then all we have to do is subtract 7, we get x equals 5, and then we can answer the question. Medium Mo has 5 dogs. Okay, put a box around it. Make the box way too big. Put the box down because I have mild OCD. Draw a picture of a dog. Kind of looks like a cat. Definitely looks like a cat. So now you write not a dog. And you're done. Okay. I just realized.
Looks like a
I don't know
cat
how to
more
draw
than it does a dog.
I figured it would look like a dog. I don't know how to draw a dog. But anyway, maybe make his snout narrower. No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. That's why I'm not an art teacher. That's why I'm a math teacher. How about this? Give them floppy ears. Is that any better?
You look like a little girl.
It looks like a bunny.
Oh man, I just can't win. Well, anyway, that's how you do number 11. Any other questions or any other problems that you would like to see? We got a couple more minutes.
We should do more problems. I don't know
Okay.
which one.
Give me another one.
Can we do 5?
Big M and little hay.
Big M and Lil Hay, you want to finish that one? Okay, let me go back to, I already had it partially done here, and I can just take it from here. And then we'll go back and I'll do number 5 on the practice problems as well. Actually, 5, maybe we'll get the whiteboard out and we'll see if some students can solve that correctly. Okay, so yeah, for number 10, Big M and Lil Hay are reading each other trivia quizzes over FaceTime to see who knows more about Shawn Mendes. The quiz has 2 question types, true, false, and multiple choice. If they get a true, false question correct, they get 2 points. And if they get a multiple choice question correct, they get 5 points. M goes first and answers 15 questions correctly and gets a score of 57 points. How many multiple choice questions did M get correct? Okay, so because they asked us how many multiple choice questions, that's what one of our variables is going to be. And of course, if one of the variables is number of multiple choice questions on the quiz, then the other one's going to be the number of the other type of question on the quiz. So we have X equals true or false, the number of true or false questions, Y equals the number of multiple choice questions. Okay, so just like in number 11, the medium Mo problem, we have our 2 equations are going to be based on the number of questions that M answered and the number of points that she got. So the number of questions, if there's only 2 types of questions on the quiz, then if you add them up, you should get the total number of questions that she answered correctly. All right, so that's where the X plus Y equals 15 comes from. The number of true false questions is X, the number of multiple choice questions is Y. If we add those together, we should get the total number of questions. And then the second equation has to do with points. You get 2 points per true false, so 2 times X. And then you get 5 points for multiple choice questions, so 5 times Y. And then her total number of points, if we add those together, should equal 57. So that's where those 2 equations came from. Any questions on how to come up with those equations? Okay, good. Okay, so next question is, how do we get opposite coefficients so we can solve it? Look at those, look at your X's, look at your Y's. Somebody give me one thing we could do to get opposite coefficients. Remember, if you're trying to answer right now and you have a mute on, we can't hear you. But if nobody knows, then
Oh, you have to multiply the first one by 2 and the second one by -1.
we could, but there's an easier way. Okay, that's I want to point that out. You are correctly, you're absolutely right. We can multiply this one by 2 to get 2x, and then we can multiply the bottom equation by -1 to get a -2x here. But how can we do it all in one step? By just multiplying one equation.
I don't know.
Think about it. If there's a 2x here, what do we want this term to be? What do we want the red term to be?
Up one by -2.
Negative.
Yes, we want this to be a -2. So we can multiply the top equation by -2. All right, so let's go ahead and show that. We're going to multiply the top equation by -2, and I'll rewrite them here down below. So we get -2x minus 2y equals -30. Okay, so I multiplied everything in the top equation by -2 there, and that's what we get. All right, and then bring down the blue one. So 2x plus 5y equals 57. And we don't change that one at all. All right, now we're ready to add because we have opposite coefficients on our x's. So we get a 0 there. We get a 3y here, negative 2 plus 5, and then we get a 27 here. Okay, so we divide both sides by 3 to solve for y, and we get y equals 9. Okay. All right, so somebody tell me what that means in the context of the problem, if y equals 9.
Number of MC questions, multiple choice questions.
Right, number of multiple choice questions is 1. There were 9 multiple choice questions on the quiz. So, can we answer the question?
No.
Are you sure?
Oh,
What-
yeah.
What is the problem asking? How many
You'll
multiple choice questions? Do we need to write down how many true false questions there were?
No.
No.
You get 45 points.
You would get 45 points, right? But the question did not answer or did not ask that either. All it asks is how many multiple choice questions did N get correct. So we found the number of multiple choice questions because that's equal to y. So we could go on. I mean, it's super simple. The math is super simple here. We would get x to find the number of true false questions. We would just plug a 9 in for y in that top equation. And then when we, whoops, I'm getting ahead of myself here. When we subtract 9, we get x equals 6. So if there were 9 multiple choice questions, then there must have been 6 true false questions. But the problem never asked that to begin with. So all we have to do is answer the question. How many multiple choice questions did M get correct? We would say M got 9 multiple choice questions correct. Oh my goodness. And then you draw a picture of M smiling. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. It would be offensive, I'm sure. Okay. Any questions about that one before I move on?
No.
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 So I heard- So I heard somebody say they wanted me to do number 5. So let's go
Yeah.
ahead. We'll just jump right into that one. Okay. I'm gonna copy this one. We're gonna try something different here. Nope, didn't mean to do that. Here we go. Okay, so we get out of. All right, so I want to bring it up. Thought I had it. Okay, so number 5. So now we're on the whiteboard instead, so all of you can write on the same time. I'm going to put the problem up at the top. And okay, so it's x plus 2y equals 20. And 2x plus y equals 19. Okay, so can I have a couple volunteers to try and solve this on the whiteboard?
Me.
Okay, so
Lena.
Lena, all right. So Lena will be over here. Anybody else want to try it? Or you could just do it on your own assignment and see if they get it right. Okay, Lena, go ahead and you can try and solve the system over on the left side of the whiteboard. Anybody else, if you want to jump in the right side and try and solve it, you can.
I will.
All right. Is that M?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. We'll work. Pick a different color, and you can go ahead and write right on this whiteboard. It is 11:50. Oh wait, no, I don't have another session after this, so no, we have time.
It's not letting me write.
You have to like click on the pen
Click-
part.
Click on the pen at the bottom, and then pick a color. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
And there's also an eraser. There's if you hit the arrow, there's also you can change the thickness. There's a laser pointer, and then there's also a select tool where you can move things around. Here we go. Now they're doing work. And remember, you're gonna have to write kind of small because this is the only room we get. I can make a new slide, but I can't add any room to this. Okay. All right, look, they both, if anybody who's watching, they both did it different ways, but they're both doing it correctly and they're going to get the same answer. So, great example. Lena multiplied the bottom equation by -2 so she could cancel the y's out. Emma multiplied the top equation by 2 and the bottom by -1 so she could cancel the x's out. We'll see that they're going to get the same answer as long as they do everything else correctly. Nice job, Emma. Okay, and you can see when what Lena's going to get for x here. Emma got 6 for x, and Lena is also getting +6. And it's smiley face. And you get the check mark of approval from Mr. Schaab.
What? Almost. Almost. My brother's hungry for lunch.
Yo-yo. I drew a yo-yo. All right, and there it is. Good job, Lena. So they got the same answer. It couldn't have been a better example. I couldn't have shown you a better one. They did it 2 completely different ways. They did the math right, and they came up with the same answer. So, so that's the tricky thing about elimination. When you don't have opposite coefficients on one of your variables, you have to manipulate the equations until you do. So, but once you have that, I think the algebra is a lot easier than the substitution. So, so yeah, that's how you do that. So you think you all think you can handle the rest of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And remember, all day tomorrow before 3 o'clock, you have me, sitting at my computer waiting for questions. So just feel free to ask. If you want me to check your work, just to make sure all the answers are right. I can do that too. And I do plan on posting the answers to the packet after everybody turns it in. Okay, so remember, these are 30-point assignments. You get 10 for the notes, 10 for the practice problems, and 10 for the application page. So if you don't turn it in, if you turn in late, those late penalties are really going to hurt you for this one time. So make sure you get it in tomorrow. Cool.
Okay.
All right. So hope you guys have a great rest of the day. And like I said, even if you have questions later today, email me. I'm happy to help or send you a quick video showing you how to do something. Anything like that. I'm here to help. Cool.
Thank you.
All right. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Yep.
Thank
See you
Bye.
later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. How do I